Imagine standing at the edge of a calm body of water. The surface is still, maybe dotted with lilies or reflecting the sky above. You might automatically call it a lake, but is it really? Could it be a pond instead? These two types of freshwater bodies can look remarkably similar, yet there are meaningful differences hiding just below the surface. From the way sunlight penetrates the water, to how deep it goes, to the life that thrives within it, there's more to lakes and ponds than meets the eye. Today we'll be diving into a question that has puzzled many nature lovers. What is the difference between a lake and a pond? By the end, you'll understand how scientists classify them, how they form, and why each has its own unique ecosystem. Right here, on History of Simple Things. The simplest way to begin understanding the difference between a lake and a pond is by looking at how scientists and ecologists define them. A pond is generally considered a small, shallow body of standing freshwater that is often less than a few hectares in size. A lake, on the other hand, is typically larger and deeper. There's no single universal number that everyone uses. Different countries and scientific fields may draw the line in slightly different places, but the general idea is consistent. Ponds are modest in scale, and lakes are more expansive. Importantly, these definitions aren't arbitrary. They reflect how water behaves and how ecological systems develop within them. Lakes and ponds can both be natural or man-made, but the label we give them often depends on size, depth, and how water circulates. When it comes to size and depth, a pond is almost always smaller and shallower than a lake, and that has big consequences. Ponds might be just a few meters deep, shallow enough that sunlight can reach all the way to the bottom, allowing plants to grow across most of the floor. Lakes, by contrast, are usually deeper, sometimes tens or hundreds of meters, and can be so deep that sunlight doesn't reach the bottom in many places. This matters because water temperature, oxygen content, and the kinds of organisms that can live there all change with depth. In a pond, the temperature is more uniform from top to bottom because the sun warms the entire water column. In a lake, the surface water can be warm while deeper water stays cold year-round. Ponds and lakes also differ in how their water moves. In shallow ponds, water usually mixes evenly from top to bottom, keeping temperature and oxygen levels fairly consistent. Lakes, however, are often deep enough to form layers. The top layer is warmer and oxygen-rich, while the bottom stays colder and may have less oxygen. Between them is a zone where temperature changes quickly. This layering, called stratification, affects how nutrients circulate and how fish and plants distribute themselves. Some lakes experience seasonal turnover, when these layers mix, refreshing oxygen and nutrients throughout. This process is rare in ponds because their shallow water naturally mixes all year, creating a more uniform environment. The differences in size, depth, and water circulation shape the life found in ponds and lakes. Ponds, being shallow and well mixed, support plants across most of the bottom and a range of animals like frogs, insects, and small fish in a fairly uniform habitat. Lakes, in contrast, have distinct zones. Shallow areas near the shore resemble ponds, but deeper sections are colder, darker, and host species adapted to low light and lower oxygen. Larger lakes can support more complex food webs and greater biodiversity because of the variety of habitats, from warm edges to cold depths. Birds, mammals, and amphibians rely on both, but the range of environments in lakes allows more types of life to thrive compared to the uniform conditions of ponds. Lakes and ponds also differ in how they form. Ponds usually appear where water collects in a shallow depression, whether from rainfall, beaver dams, or human activity. Their formation is relatively small-scale and quick compared to lakes. Lakes, however, often require larger geological forces. Many were carved by glaciers at the end of the Ice Age, while others formed from tectonic shifts, volcanic craters, or river widening over centuries. Because lakes are deeper and larger, their creation usually involves more dramatic natural processes. Understanding how these bodies of water form helps explain their size, depth, and the ecosystems they support. People interact with ponds and lakes in similar ways: recreation, water supply, and wildlife observation. But scale matters. Ponds, being shallow, warm quickly in summer and freeze in winter, making them ideal for close-up nature experiences like observing insects, frogs, or aquatic plants. Lakes, with their greater depth and volume, support larger-scale activities such as fishing, boating, swimming, and sometimes even water storage for towns and cities. The variety of habitats in lakes also makes them more resilient to seasonal changes. Human activity affects both, from nutrient runoff to recreational use, but the ecological impact can differ because lakes have deeper zones and larger ecosystems, while ponds respond more quickly to environmental changes. So what really separates a lake from a pond? Size and depth are the main factors. Ponds are small and shallow, with sunlight reaching the bottom, while lakes are larger and deeper, forming layers that affect temperature, oxygen, and life. These differences shape circulation, nutrients, and the plants and animals each can support. Formation also differs. Ponds form in simple depressions, while lakes often come from glaciers, tectonics, or volcanic activity. Humans interact with both, but ponds offer intimate nature experiences, while lakes support recreation and water supply. Both are vital freshwater ecosystems. Next time you stand by still water, you'll know whether it's a pond or a lake, and why that distinction matters. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.